joined today by Richard Milner, Head of Sales from Dezrez. Richard, thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, David. You?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Richard. We are talking at sort of the beginning of May, and things are, we've said agents are busier than they've ever been before. They are running around a little bit like headless chickens at the moment, trying desperately to keep the public happy. If you read some of the comments in the press, but also on industry sort of notice boards, you'll see that there are huge amounts of viewings happening on single properties. So Tom McGee, an agent here in the north, he's in Ashton. I think he reported yesterday that in a 24-hour period, he had 100 inquiries for one terrace property, which is
incredible.
It's staggering. The demand is staggering. And because of that, we reached out to all the suppliers and said, hey guys, look, agents are struggling with stock shortages at the moment. If you have a solution that can help, feel free to come on. And we got, various different people that sort of had focuses on perhaps prospecting, different products that they had that maybe would help agents to plan ahead and boost their listings. Your approach was different and I liked it. I liked it a lot. You sent a blog post and obviously a link to that will be carried below this video. But what was interesting about your approach was you didn't just jump on the stamp duty deadline and said that's the only reason that the market's is busy. There are a number of different reasons for it, and you offered, if I might say, a more holistic approach to the problem. And you said that some thinking needs to be done about agents and how they engage their customer base. And and so I'm going to hand over to you to comment on that. But we were talking about how difficult it is for suppliers at the moment to engage agents because they're extremely busy as well.
That's right.
Just as you can't force an agent to want to take your services right now, an agent can't force members of the public to sell their house either. But the best thing that you could do is keep in touch in a sort of a friendly and helpful manner. So what are your thoughts on it, Richard?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm having about to be in a position where we might be moving house ourselves. I'm all for finding out from the public about what they think, what their experiences are, and this is kind of the reason why I wrote the blog. It was based on what the public are thinking as opposed to what the industry are thinking. As a whole. So, having looked at our house, we've got 2 young children. They're both growing far too quickly. My daughter is in the smaller room. She's obviously going to want a much larger room at some point. And the options are that we either start developing the house that we're in or we move. So at some point in the next probably year and a half, we're going to be moving house. Now, the issue at the moment, in my eyes, and this is the basis of the article, is I would rather find my dream home before even thinking about putting a house up for sale, which kind of goes completely the opposite to what's happened in the past. And it's purely through fear. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. I know, number one, I'm going to get either what I want for the house or probably more than it's worth because of the market. We've got a south-facing house. I'm not trying to do a sales job on my house, by the way.
I'm buying. Go on, you're selling. Go.
So it's got all the benefits of a house that I know will sell really, really quickly. But then the flip side of it is, well, the house market is so busy. Will I be able to find a house that's in the ideal location for schools, transport, my job, all of these things? Is that house out there? And until I find that house, it's a vicious. I mean, I've said it in the article. It's a vicious circle.
I think you hit the nail bang on the head, because that one of the fears is that the market is so healthy. You know that your problem isn't finding a buyer for your house. That will happen. It's your next move and where that's going to take you to. And I suppose as a member of the public now who is trying to buy a house as a buyer, you don't relish the thought of having to compete with 30, 40 people for the same property, perhaps get into a bidding war, have to go through all of that pain and still not have a reasonable chance of getting your hands on it because of the pressure that's in the market at the moment. So I dare say there's a lot of people in your position that have decided, you know what, until things cool off a bit, we're not going to move just now because we don't want to enter that. Somebody described it as a rat race the other day, but yeah, you don't want to enter the race, do you?
Well, James White, funny enough, he actually commented on the blog, and he, the way he described it is spot on. It's like everyone coming up to a mini roundabout, and it's who jumps first.
Yeah.
So, you know, the famous roundabout in Paris, and those that are on top of all these things are the ones that will do the best. That's a given, I think. But I'm talking about the whole market now. How it's in, because if this stock shortage does happen, and I hope it doesn't, and it gets to a point where, you know, there's nothing left, competition's going to get even more. And
I think you're probably right, and I think when it comes to tech that agents use, and we find this, we do MOTs with agents every day, going through their tech stack, if you like. So whatever it is that they're currently using to help them do their job and deliver value to their customers. And sometimes if you push them to look at it closely, there is stuff on there that they're really not getting usage out of. Subscriptions that have sat there on auto renew for years in some cases that they very, very rarely dip into. And one of the most common things that I hear from agents, and when I say I hear that from agents, I hear it in my own office sometimes, that we're just too busy dealing with inquiries, dealing with sales, dealing with whatever it is we're being busy with, to make time for using. So prospecting is a key one. It's always the first thing to suffer a busy market, and it's a mistake, because what you're doing is, as Chris Watkins says, you're reaping now, but you're not sowing for the future, and that's the issue. If you're not doing the two things together,
it's building pipeline. You know,
completely.
I say to my sales team, any sales manager, head of sales, etc., will say it to their team, and building that pipeline and growing it is essential for hitting your targets and growth. It has to happen. If you're really, really busy and you're closing loads of deals, you know, it's all great on paper, but if your pipeline is shrinking,
then
what are you going to work on for the future?
It's going to dry up at some point.
Yeah, it's the same for any industry, in any environment where you want to grow your business. It's the same. But property has always been it's a natural circle. I mean, my background is commercial property.
Yeah.
So, and when the recession hit, obviously everyone was panicking. But as long as that commercial property circle continues in play, it normally looks after itself, and then the benefits hit the rest of the industry. But it's so interesting. I mean, I've never wrote a blog before like this, but it's such a hot topic.
Yeah.
I just think you've got to share your experience rather than just say, well, here's a great bit of tech that's going to win you this.
Yeah.
There's loads of tech out there that's going to help you do that. But again, I looked at the cycle of when people are moving. Now, I moved house 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The level of tech that is available now was not there when I moved house, and every estate agent that came to see me, it was, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're going to offer, here's our rates, etc., etc. And the estate agent came into me now and said, right, I'm going to give you this, you're going to get this with me, you're going to get a client portal, you're going to get this, and then they do the personal touch you just talked about, David, as in, I'm going to really look after you, and here's my experience of what I've done in the past, the human touch.
Yeah.
Here's my prospect list. Here's who I'm going to hit first. My decision is going to be a lot easier than what it was 5 years ago. It is.
Yeah. Because you want to know that you've got a motivated agent that cares about your position and your move. If you were just another number on a piece of paper for them, then, you know, they'd come in, they're not going to try too hard. They'll shove it on a portal, hope that it sells, and the rest of. And in this market, in fairness, agents, if they're not careful and they're not adding value, they can get accused of having a really easy ride, because let's face it, you've got 30 people turning up for one house. The house is selling itself. It's got nothing to do with you. But
it is.
In truth, it's everything else that you do around that. I mean, I spoke to somebody else this week in the sort of conveyancing sector than in agency. And they said, you know, agents don't sell houses. The houses sell themselves, but the agents add the value and the services around it. And I think this is probably a really important time that we all take stock. And as your blog suggests, we think and we reflect on that human touch. How good are we at communicating with our vendors and our sellers? Are we guilty of trying to placate them before they've even complained? So very often a conversation you might have with a seller might be something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've not found you a buyer yet, but," or whatever it may be. Do you ever stop to sort of pick up the phone and go, "How's your property search going? Have you seen anything? Is there anything that's you know," and just have a really normal conversation with them?
Absolutely. And we touched on the fact that it's similar for suppliers at the moment.
Yeah.
With estate agents, it's the personal touch. It's keeping in touch with them, not bombarding, not, you know, some people like, and you've got to match it to what the actual person at the other end, their behaviours, how they like to interact. I mean, goodness me, you could even go to the stage of saying, how do you want to communicate? How do you want to interact? Are you happy via, you know, rather than do it on a checklist, which a lot of companies do? Would you rather me call? Do you want to do it via WhatsApp? Do you want to do it via email? You know, how do you want to communicate in the best way? Because some people don't like answering the phone. They don't. God knows why. It's a lost thing for me.
But I get that. If an estate agent was calling me every week, you know, just for a bit of chit chat, maybe I might, as a customer, get a little bit sick of that. And it's easier to answer a quick WhatsApp question or whatever it may be. I have a vendor, and she's probably the nicest one that I've ever dealt with in sort of 24 years of selling houses. But she'll send me a message at the end of every week, without fail, every Friday afternoon, wishing me a good weekend and thanking me for everything I'm doing for her. And I have to tell you something, that has the result of me, feeling really good that I've got a client that respects and appreciates me, but I also want to work harder for that vendor because she's telling me she appreciates everything I'm doing for her. It motivates me to carry on and do that in the next week. So
of course it does.
We can all incorporate that sort of thing into our communication with others, can't we?
I think you're absolutely right. I couldn't have put it better. It's not all about getting the deal. Yes, it's important, but you've got to have job satisfaction. You've got to get something out of it for yourself as well.
Yeah.
And signing that deal, yes, it's a great feeling, but what if that customer is actually really happy as well?
Yeah.
And gives good reviews, positive feedback. It's worth its weight in gold because you can use that for your business. I mean, we're possibly slightly digressing now from the stock shortage thing, but it is in a way highlighting that human factor. It's that personal touch. I've been in sales nearly 20 years for my sins, but people by people is probably as important now as it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's such a driver to win, not win every deal, but win the right kind of business. If that makes sense.
I think you're 100% right, and I think that the approach to winning business, that you'll take any business that comes your way at whatever price that is and whatever you have to discount it to, particularly as an agent, is going to make you very, very miserable in the long run. Probably very poor as well, but also very miserable. and knowing the clients that you can work with well, I think that's a skill set to be able to. I mean, you'll probably know this as a supplier. You can have a conversation with an agent, and you think, do you know what? This agent's not going to use 80% of my tech. They're not forward thinking enough to want to add that kind of value to their clients. So maybe I'm not for them, and they're not for me. And having the wisdom to know when to walk away from that conversation. It is a wisdom. You don't get that overnight. It takes years.
You're absolutely right. So in terms of some deals, you obviously you can get gratification of actually walking away from a deal if it's for the right reasons, and you can actually think, well, God, do you know what? I've made the right decision there, because that might have been painful for both sides for whatever reasons.
Yeah,
you've highlighted one. Will they really use the software to the degree they need it to? Will they use the tech in the way they should do with their customers? And if they're not, is that going to be a customer service problem, etc.? All of these factors.
Yeah.
And you can hold your head high. Selling on value is a real big thing for me, and us as a company. You've got to sell on that basis.
I
there's
know
no point in just. So I was going to say, there's no point in just discounting just to win a deal.
Yeah, I know we've digressed from stock shortages, but I think that's the topic of your next blog, is selling on value, because I actually think it's great for suppliers to hear about it, but it's also great for the agents. The agents are people that, just like suppliers, are pitching for new business every day of the week, or trying to anyway, in as many houses as they can get into. And winning that business at all costs is sometimes not the right thing for you, or not the right thing for your client. So, but it brings us full circle to your original blog, which is fascinating. And what I love about today's discussion is your blog doesn't offer any one solution. What it says is this should be used as a talking point, and we've just used it as a talking point, and you can see that it has very many dynamic sort of facets
really
to it.
Has. It's great to talk about. I mean, topics like this, in a forum like this, it's ideal, because you could be down the pub with your friend, just having a chat about the industry or something like this, and you find that you really get into the depths of it through these kind of conversations. So it's been great for me. It really has.
Well, fantastic. Well, it's been lovely to speak to you. It was refreshing to read your blog. It really was. We get a lot of stuff, a lot of PR stuff, and I'll read it, and some of it I think, it's very salesy. They're only trying to sell one thing here, and it needs padding out. But I think yours was a bit more thought provoking. It had some time put into it. And I'm really happy to share that. So we'll make that available to everybody.
Great.
Richard, really impressed with the stuff that's going on at Dezrez behind the scenes at the moment. I know there's been you've got some great sort of collaborative tie-ups as well, and the software itself it's a good looking product, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've come on leaps and bounds. I mean, there's more to come on the horizon. We've got more integrations we're working on. Property management has now been released, which has kind of been the missing link.
Yes.
We've got a number of larger firms that are coming on board with this as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything is looking extremely positive for us.
That's great.
And we just want to keep plowing on. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, keep on making progress. We will check in with you from time to time. Thank you, Richard, for joining me.
Great, sir. Thanks, David.